Hi everybody! So today we're going to do a tutorial about how to make this heart square, and then with that you can make pretty much anything you want with it. This is a wall hanging that I made a couple of years ago. You could take just one of these squares and turn it into a pot holder for Valentine's Day or for any day. You could do a table runner out of these. You could do placemats out of them. You could do a quilt, a baby quilt or a lap quilt with these blocks. Pretty much anything you can imagine you can make with them. So let's get on with how to make this block. Okay, so here I have my squares. These are 5-inch squares, and I've got my background pieces and I've got my pieces that are going to be my hearts. This is going to be the bottom part of the heart. So what we want to do is put these squares right sides together, and then we're going to take them and iron them. We're going to iron right down the middle so that you have that line marking it, and then you can sew down once you've got your line here for where you're going to iron it. Then you can sew down either side of this 1/4 inch and cut right up the middle to make your square. So I'll iron that and show you what that looks like. Okay, so here are 5-inch blocks that I've laid right side together, and then I took them in and ironed them so I would have this mark to follow. Then I took it to the sewing machine, and you can see I used the mark that I made with the iron, and I sewed down each side of this so it's a 1/4 inch seam, so we can cut this, and these will be the squares. So we'll just cut that. Now you have two, we'll iron these open. These are our 2 squares, and we'll trim those corners off so they don't stick out like that. So that's what that looks like. And that will be the bottom of the heart. So I will go trim those up, iron them down and trim them up, and be back. Alright, so here are our blocks after we've pressed them open and trimmed the edges. So now these go together like this to make the bottom of the heart. So we'll put these right sides together, just like that, and we're going to sew right down this seam right here. So I'll go do that and be right back. Here's my bottom block all sewn together and pressed open. You always want to make sure you press your seams open before you continue sewing. So now for the top part of the heart, I've got the heart fabric I've got cut in a 4.5 inch square. I've cut 2 of those, and then I've got 4 of these little 1.5 inch squares. Now what you're going to do is these are going to go here like this, and they're going to get sewn down onto this. What I like to do is I like to go and iron them in half, so I know where to sew, because we're only really going to use half of this. It's going to be cut off with the top of this square. So I put them on right sides together, and then this gives me a line where to sew 1/4 inch on the other 1/4 inch seam allowance on here. And then we're going to trim this corner off completely, so it's going to look like that when you're done. And then we'll fold it open. So I will go to the sewing machine and do that. So here's what it looks like after you sew your pieces on diagonally. You're going to sew these 2 pieces down on the diagonal. That's what it looks like. And then now we're going to trim. We're going to trim this piece off. We're going to cut it. You want to leave yourself a little bit for seam allowance, and just trim that right off. Same thing on the other side. now when you open it up, it will look like that. So I'll iron this out so that it sits flat. I'll be right back. So here are two squares that are going to form the top half of the heart. We're going to take these and put them right sides together. And then you're going to sew a seam right down the middle and iron that flat. There's the top half that I just ironed. And we'll add the bottom half of our heart. And so we're going to sew these right sides together. We're going to make a seam down the middle, press that open, and then our block will be finished. So here is our finished heart quilt block. This is just an example of an easier one. You can do different colors on these. You can make it any color you want. And then what I would do is put a border around this, and you can make it into anything you want. I think I probably make mine into a table runner or a table topper. And I'll show you my finished product when I'm all done with that. But that's the easy way to make this heart quilt square. Okay, so I've continued on making the quilt blocks. I've made 3 of them, and now I'm going to join these together. I'm going to put a border around them and a piece in the middle to join them together, and then I'll make it into a table runner. So if you want to continue on with this project, you can make as many or as few blocks as you want and join those together to make either a bigger wall hanging or to make the table runner like I'm going to make. So here's what my table runner looks like now that I've got the borders in between our heart quilt squares. Now we just need to put the back on. These pieces, I kind of eyeballed what would look good for a border piece in between and put them in. I can tell you what the measurements are. They are 3, so you want to cut it a 1/4 inch bigger than that, or 1/2 inch bigger than that for your seam allowance on each side. So if you cut it 3.5 by 8, so by 9, 3.5 by 9, and you'll be good to go on that. If you want to do the same size border, those are 3.5 by 9. Okay, now to put our backing on the table runner, I've got a bigger piece of fabric and I've just laid my table runner out on it. And I am going to cut around this, and I'm going to leave a little bit of extra sticking out so I can fold it over. I'll probably just cut the width of my ruler down it to make it easier. And you want to leave that extra so you can fold it over to make the edge. So I will cut that out and show you how to pin that down. Okay, so I have the backing cut out for this now, and I have them laying wrong sides together. And now we're going to fold and pin this back on. So you want to fold it, the raw edge over, and then you want to fold it over again. And then this will make a little border around what you already have. Just pin that down. And then just keep going. Work your way around the whole thing. Okay, so I've got the sides, the two long sides pinned down, and then to do the end, you're going to want to make sure these are folded over. You're going to fold it, and then you're going to fold it again, tuck that raw edge in there, and make sure these corners are square, and then you can pin that down. So that when you sew, your corners are pinned down square. You can just tuck that in. There we go. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine and just sew around the edge of the whole thing, and we'll be done. Alright, so I sewed that all down, and here is our finished table runner. The back is just a tan fabric that I had. There's our table runner. So thanks for watching and doing this project with me. We'll see you next time.